This is Minding the Forest, a podcast of the Louisiana Forestry Association. Hello, I'm your host, Jeff Zeringue, media specialist for the LFA. In Minding the Forest, we talk about all things forestry. Forest landowners, loggers, and wood manufacturers such as lumber, paper, and pellet mills all play an important role in the conservation and management of forests for the important renewable natural resource it is. Managed forests offer more for wildlife and water protection, so the LFA advocates to keep forests as forests. This episode of Mind of the Forest is sponsored by First South Farm Credit. First South is your premier rural lender. With over 100 years financing timber and agriculture, they have the expertise you're looking for when financing rural property. If you're looking to purchase or refinance land, call your local First South Farm Credit office or find them online at firstsouthland.com. This is Buck Vandersteen, Executive Director of the Louisiana Forestry Association, on the upcoming regular session of the Louisiana Legislature.
Good day to everybody. And the legislature has been in full swing. Brand new legislature, 60 new members, and 144 very eager individuals moving forward with two special sessions, completing them, and now on March the 11th, starting the regular session of 2024.
They have already been through, I guess, an initiation, if you will, with two special sessions, and now the regular one. Are they tired already?
Not yet, I think. I think their enthusiasm is quite high, and certainly if you look at the number of pre-filed bills, now these are proposed legislation that has not really been introduced yet. So when I say pre-filed, it's a bill that someone is thinking about, but they could easily pull it before it is brought before the body.
Just to cover just a little bit of procedural stuff. The pre-filed bills come in before the session, and they are just put in a stack somewhere. They may, as you just said, they may or may not be submitted to a committee that can be pulled at any time. So these are things that they're thinking about, but they have to have had some of this put to paper already, correct?
Correct, and that really helps the legislative staff in getting some of these thoughts from legislators on paper, because once the legislature starts, it will really move at a fast pace. The number of pre-filed bills right now in the House are over 700. The number of pre-filed bills in the Senate is knocking on the door of 400. So that's 1,100 pieces of proposed legislation, even before the legislature gets started on March the 11th. So you can see that enthusiasm, that eagerness to get some things out. And it's understandable, brand new legislature.
A lot of new members,
a lot of new members, and they want to do things, and they're getting ready. And as you pointed out, they have had some practice on the first two special sessions, so ready to go.
So what are the bills that the LFA is trying to keep in mind and keep an eye on?
LFA and Logging Council and all, we really look for bills that could harm us. And sometimes this is just unintended consequences of bills that have been introduced. We don't know of any that is specifically geared to harm the forestry or the logging industry. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that with over 1,100 bills that something wouldn't be done or wouldn't be said or could be interpreted wrong and could have a negative impact. That's why we like to look at all these bills. We encourage people to be watching and listening, and if you hear something, to call the office and say, look, have you seen this? Do you have any intelligence on this particular piece of legislation? Because with 1,100 pieces of legislation and growing, we could easily overlook things, and that's the last thing we want to do is overlook something. We have seen a couple of bills we're looking at. The Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry, Strain, is trying to head off some efforts to limit prescribed burning. And as we all know, prescribed burning is maybe one of the best tools we have in the forester's toolkit to keep our forests healthy and growing and protected against a major wildfire.
That controls the fuel that's on the ground.
Absolutely.
And if we keep in mind all the things that have happened in California, where they've lost millions of acres of forest, and last year we had a very active wildfire season, but by comparison, 60,000 acres isn't that much. It's a lot. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot. But that's a good tool that helps keep the fuel off the ground.
That is correct. And those 60,000 acres that were burned in Louisiana last year, nearly 5 times what a normal burning year is. So last year, and if you look at where a lot of that burning occurred, it occurred in areas that were affected by Hurricanes Laura and Delta, that a lot of material was on the ground. It was hot, it was dry, and when fire got started, some of it by lightning, unfortunately, some of it by arson, and that just destroyed a lot of acres of timber. Fortunately, none of the firefighting crews were severely injured or killed. There were a couple fatalities, but those really were people that didn't evacuate when they should have, or they got caught in their own personal fires that they might have been burning some trash and it got away from them, and they got excited and tried to put it out, and instead of putting it out, got in the middle of it.
A lot of private property was threatened by that. Matter of fact, we have a story in Forest and People talking about how the commissioner said, we're going to save Maryville. Maryville was under threat of getting burned.
That's right. And not only Maryville, but there is a Lions Crippled Children's Camp up in Leesville, North Leesville, and that was in the eye of a major wildfire. Unfortunately, that was put out before it did damage to that camp. I mean, that camp every summer hosts a lot of challenged youth, and great opportunity for these young people to get outside, mm-hmm. do canoeing and horse riding and all of that, and give parents a break from watching the kids and caring for kids. Yeah. So it would have been just a tragedy to lose that. But those are things that are going on, and prescribed fire will help protect those. Another bill that is being proposed by the commissioner deals with timber contracts. Now, most landowners and most timber companies operate with a contract. The landowner wants to have timber cut. They either have a contract with the company or the logger to do that. There are some occasions, small holdings, in their eagerness to sell timber, will just do a verbal agreement and find anybody that will come in and cut timber, and without any written contract, and something goes haywire.
That sounds very risky.
They report it to us. They report it to the Department of Agriculture and Forestry, and they want to help. But the question is, what's the contract? What does the contract look like? How do we know how to proceed against somebody if they violated the contract? And if it's not in writing, it hasn't happened. So this particular bill would say that any commercial timber harvesting, this is not cutting trees in your yard, but this is cutting commercial trees, that a contract would be required. It doesn't have to be a 100-page contract. It could be as simple as who's cutting it, where is it going, what's the price you're going to be paid, if there are any requirements or restrictions on the harvest, the use of best management practices, all of that can be a very simple document.
The simplicity is probably essential for any contract, but certainly, how would you know what expectations to rule on if there's nothing written down? If we have an agreement and there's nothing on paper, my expectations might be different than yours.
That's exactly right. And we are asking enforcement people to interpret that, and it's impossible to do. And that's why the commissioner and I think the forest community will say, yes, that's a prudent thing to do to protect the smallest of the small landowners, not really worried about the big landowners because they do those contracts all the time. So right. It's a prudent thing to do in business.
Just to clarify, when we say commercial, that doesn't necessarily mean the big companies that have lots of acres of land, but it could be the ones that have 40 acres, 30 acres, and they want to get that harvested. They will be required or could be required to have a contract just to make sure that their expectations and the expectations of the harvester are fulfilled on both sides.
Exactly, and that actually goes down to the 5 acre, the 10 acre, and that's where most people that are calling kind of in a panic. I've got 5 acres that I want to clear. I can't find anybody to do it. I'll take anybody to come in and clear what I've got, and that's a danger for abuse and misinterpretation. And then when those things happen that you don't expect to happen, then you want some kind of restitution. There's nothing there that you can do. So
that's essential, especially when you look at the smaller acreages like that. I've talked to loggers where they say, there was a guy had 7 acres and it's just adjacent to where I was logging, said I wanted to log it. That's great, but will the expectations of the logger and the expectations of the landowner, will they coincide? And it's just you're there and you can do it, but you really need to have something on paper.
Yep, that's very true. Very true. Have it written down. Best recourse to have.
Safe for both sides.
Absolutely. We're also looking at insurance reform. Insurance rates in Louisiana for property, for trucking industries are extremely high. We have a new commissioner of insurance, and we hope that our expectations are not too high, that he's going to make everything right, because it is a complicated issue. Mm-hmm. Hopefully in the legislature, they will be tweaking the tort reform that started a few years ago, making it better and helping attract more industry, more insurance companies to Louisiana, because we believe that competition will help drive down insurance costs, along with safety in our industry. And our hats are off to the logging industry, because they are really trying to improve the quality of their drivers, installing cameras in their vehicles so that when an accident does occur, the police right there, the state police right there, can see who was at fault. Because the normal reaction in a truck and automobile accident is, well, it's always the truck driver's fault.
Yeah, I think we've been told that for many years.
Yeah, and what we find with many of these chips that are pulled from the cameras mm-hmm. is that the automobile was improper, and it has cut down on some of the frivolousness of these suits that come about. More of that is needed, but if we can avoid the accident from the get-go, we won't even have to go that length of getting state police involved.
Yeah, sometimes avoiding those accidents includes giving the truck the right of way and not trying to cut in front of the truck because you have several tons that cannot stop on a dime.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. Some other issues that we see come up in previous sessions, we had some issues on use of running waters of the state. trespassing on running waters. And there's another bill, proposed pre-filed bill, that is addressing access to running waters of the state. It gets into a lot of legal stuff, so really some lawyers need to be looking at it, and I'm sure many will be doing that to see that this is not something that is going to just be an open door for anybody that says, well, I can go on any running waters of the state because the law says that, and I can just see with hunting clubs and with access for doing what you want on your property to have somebody floating by and saying, well, we can be here because we can access any running waters.
Yeah.
It doesn't bode well.
That is a dicey subject because a lot of folks have very strong feelings on both sides of that issue.
Very true. Very true. And always know where you're accessing property, whether you're on dry land or whether you're on water. Make sure that you know where you're hunting, where you're walking. If it's not yours and it's not public land, I'd be looking to ask somebody, can I enjoy the benefit of being on your property?
In that case, it's best to ask permission and not wait for forgiveness.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. A lot of legislation that we see does not make the Advocate or the News Star World or the Shreveport Times or the American Press. So Louisiana Forestry Association produces a legislative report during the session, and this particular report addresses issues that we think are affecting forestry, logging, and our forest products industry. It's a service part of membership in the Louisiana Forestry Association. So for the members out there that would like to receive this report, all you have to do is call the office and give us your email address, and that is done electronically. People say, well, can you mail me a copy? And our response to that is by the time we mail it and by the time you receive it in the mail, the issue could already have been addressed and be wasting everyone's time. So electronically, and that's the beauty of electronic and the internet, that we know instantaneously what's happening, we can respond quickly, and we can steer things in the right direction.
Or a number of amendments could have been proposed and the bill could have the exact opposite effect as it was desired.
Exactly. And as again, I said earlier, we try and look at all of these bills and understand exactly what the impact is, but we may overlook things, and we encourage people to access these bills, and we'll give you ways that you can do that, and you can look at that and share with us your opinions on these bills so that we know exactly the best way to proceed.
For those who do desire to receive the report, you can email us also at lfa@laforestry.com and make your request. Make sure you're a member. And if you want to even see about membership, you can go to our website, www.laforestry.com, look under About Us, and you can find a little menu item of membership, and you can read more. So when you're trying to watch 1,100 bills, as you said earlier, and of course it's great we have almost 4,000 members across the state, so that allows us to have a lot of eyes and ears during the legislative session on these things. And so the probability of a bill that is introduced coming out close to how it's intended sometimes is pretty difficult, isn't it?
Really depends on the bill. If it is a controversial bill, it could get very complicated. If it's a bill that most people say that's a good idea, it can move very quickly through the process. These 1,100 bills, many of them don't impact forestry at all. They may deal with local sheriff. They may deal with social issues. They may deal with community engagement, but not really forestry related. But nonetheless, you still got to look at it and ask that question: can this affect the forestry community? And that's the time-consuming effort that we go through to make sure that we don't miss something that could have a negative impact on our industry. And again, our legislature is very good for agriculture and forestry, natural resources in the state. We don't have, I think, near the problem that so many other states have on the social issues and the green movement, so to speak. I mean, people in Louisiana realize that agriculture, forestry is the green industry, that if we're going to do things good for the environment, we better have working forests, we better have strong agricultural interests, we better continue to manage our resources using our best management practices and support efforts that encourage more sustainable forestry, sustainable agriculture, sustainable use of natural resources. And with that attitude and that history that we have, that legacy that we have a very good legislature to move things forward. We just want to be sure that they understand the consequences of bills before they unintentionally will pass something that could harm us.
Have we missed anything?
We need to stay involved. We call it showing up. We need to take a little extra time to read the legislative report. If it's something there that has an interest, find out more about it. Call our office and talk with us about it. I did have one person down at the Capitol the other day say that, this regular session is going to be a real fast-paced legislation, and we might see a constitutional convention come after the session. Now, having a constitutional convention is opening Pandora's box, and we talk then really of engagement, because in a constitutional convention, you're basically rewriting the Constitution of Louisiana. And a stroke of the pen could add tremendous costs to logging, to forestry, to land ownership, to the way we do business. So that may be rumor. I hope it is rumor, but brand new legislature, 60 new people, a lot of eager people to do the right thing. New governor, new statewide elected officials, a couple of them that got reelected, but we've got to be very much engaged, and we try and be down at the legislature often to hear things and to pick things up, and then communicate that to the members, and that's why communications is so important. And the best thing is being on our electronic legislative report. But again, this is an issue that when things get rolling, you got to be sure you're at the table. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And we're going to really have to be very, very vigilant if that should happen. So 2024 is turning out to be a very, very busy year. It's going to get busier as time goes on, and we hope that we see some positive things in our insurance market and our things that improve our logging industry and our forest industry along the way. And we thank just everybody that is willing to step up, willing to help out, to spread the good word about forestry.
And one more thing before we wrap this up. Sometimes it means making the effort to go to Baton Rouge as the landowner or the logger or the forest products person, because there's an example, and a great example in Bossier Parish recently, where the loggers were faced with a $10,000 bond just to do business, but they showed up. The landowners showed up. So just a word of caution, if you really, really want to be involved, sometimes it means making a trip to Baton Rouge.
Yep. remember the anthropologist in the mid-20th century, Margaret Mead. She said, "Never doubt what a group of thoughtful, dedicated individuals can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that has."
One more reminder, if you would like to be put on, if you're an LFA member and you would like to be put on the legislative report, you can email us at lfa@laforestry.com. And I would like to thank very much Buck Vandersteen for joining us today. Thanks, Buck.
Thank you, and go forestry.
Thank you for listening to Minding the Forest, a podcast of the Louisiana Forestry Association. This episode of Minding the Forest was sponsored by First South Farm Credit. First South is your premier rural lender. With over 100 years financing timber and agriculture, they have the expertise you're looking for when financing rural property. If you're looking to purchase or refinance land, call your local First South Farm Credit office or find them online at firstsouthland.com. If you'd like to learn more about sustainable forestry and the LFA and its programs and how you can be part of an organization that supports landowners, loggers, and wood manufacturers in the state, go to laforestry.com. You can also send comments and suggestions to me by email at jzeringue@laforestry.com. That's jzeringue @laforestry.com, or check out the show notes for our contact information. You can also subscribe or click the button to get notifications when a new episode is dropped each month. Remember, at the Louisiana Forestry Association, we're minding the forest for you.